me bring in our dear friend Tara Dublin, who does indeed rock. But when I do, I want to bring her in with her new theme song because I don't she hasn't had a chance to have it played when she came in. Here you go, ladies and gentlemen, Tara Dublin.
Goodbye, Portland, you twisted map. Where's the harbor? Where's the gap? Goodbye, Portland. You make
Is that my big surprise? Is that
Yeah.
the surprise that I heard tell about?
Yeah.
I have entrance music now.
Yep.
That's my surprise.
Yep.
This is the big surprise that Andrea texted me about this morning.
It's
at
one,
7
you
or
know.
whatever it was.
Well, yeah. I mean, it shouldn't be a surprise
I
that
thought-
the show's awesome all the time. But I specifically made.
That's expected.
Yeah, I know. People take it for granted, as they should, by the way. You know what? I like being taken for granted. I insist on it.
No,
you know
but-
why? Because that means
Right.
you could trust. Trust and being taken for granted are kissing cousins.
I wanna take you for granted.
That's right. Yeah.
I wanna push you way around, and
Mhm.
I will. Do you know that there are people who believed that song was written for the Barbie movie? And those
dear.
people are very young
Oh
people,
dear.
and they did not know.
Oh,
They
dear.
don't know Matchbox 20, and I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. I'm going
It's-
to lean towards
look.
good.
I mean, in Dumb and Dumber, they've got the monkeys. They were a big influence on the Beatles. Like that happens every generation, and that generation, that generational joke.
Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. By the way, I did get the Wordle solution today, and I got it in 2. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's brutal.
I'm wicked smart. By the way, also, I was listening to you while I was
Mm-hmm.
getting ready, and I didn't get a chance to participate in the horror movie conversation.
Yeah.
And I would like to briefly participate. Briefly. So as a teenager, I enjoyed the scary movies, as you were talking about, like, all of that working
Mhm.
through shit and watching a lot of girls get hacked to death
Mhm.
by big scary men, which
Mhm.
is a great metaphor for women's lives from birth to death. Hooray. And so when you were talking about like learning to cope through horror films, I think there's a lot of truth to that.
Mhm.
Because it's a problem-solving situation, right? Because everyone's like, "Don't go up the stairs,"
Right.
Like that shit, right? Don't go in the basement.
It's one of the ways you
and
treat.
so-
It's one of the ways you teach. And I know people get this shit all backwards, like Disney princess movies. Disney princess movies are not for girls. They're for boys. They're to teach you to treat women with respect and reverence, to pedestal the
think
women
they
in your
get it.
life. Nope. Women think it's about the dresses that they wear and the slipper and all that kind of stuff. It's so that men don't turn into monsters. We're not worried by and large about women turning into monsters. Almost all
really.
pop culture is to teach women how to escape from men who have turned into monsters and teach the other men around them, the vast majority, thank you very much, to be anti-monster and to protect the women around them when necessary. That's what it's been about.
Correct.
Whether you think it's necessary or not, whether you want to go like I could kick anybody's ass and tell your story all they gonna, doesn't matter. That's what it's for. That's what it's always been for.
Beauty and the Beast.
Right, yeah.
Anyway, but then when I became a mother, the whole world is terrifying and wants to kill you and your baby.
Yeah.
Rosemary's Baby is like hits so different when you are pregnant. Watch that when you're pregnant. You're just like, everybody wants my baby and wants to kill me. And then the whole world is so scary. You see the world as one giant death trap, and scary movies became not a thing for me for a while. I didn't want to watch them. I still have issues if there's something that that I'm watching where a child is hurt or scared or anything bad, because it's not that I can't suspend my disbelief while watching a movie. I think what I end up doing is I think about the parents of the child actor putting that child actor in a traumatic situation and trying to explain to like a 4-year-old, you're pretending to be scared, but also that's really fucking scary, like that shit. But anyway, as an adult, and I've always been a huge Stephen King aficionado for a very long time, and I have right here on my desk. This is a postcard I received from Stephen King in 1985 because I wrote to him.
Right.
I was doing a paper about him and H.P. Lovecraft, comparing them. And back in the day of 1985, kids, you had to, if you wanted to write to a famous person, you wrote to them through their publisher, is what I did,
Right.
and waited because you write like in a handwritten. And then I got like a whole packet of information, which
Mm-hmm.
he physically typed at the bottom. Hope this isn't too late. And good luck on your term paper. Hope you get an A. And then the next day, I got that postcard because I had asked about the Dark Tower because at that time it was out of print. And he said, you could reach out to these people, but don't pay more than $50. And
Mm-hmm.
that's been on my desk every day since May 31st, 1985, or it was on my wall. It was somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Inspo, total inspo. I love Salem's Lot. That's my favorite Stephen King book. And The Stand. Those are my
Mm-hmm.
favorites. I don't love any of the adaptations thereof. And I would love it if only Mike Flanagan was allowed to adapt Stephen King properties from forever. Forever. Because if you've seen any Mike Flanagan adaptation of any Stephen King, it is far superior to all other Stephen King adaptations. If you've seen The Life of Chuck, it's very good. But my personal favorite horror movie now
Mm-hmm.
in my life, my
Mm-hmm.
whole life, as I look back on everything, it is the director's cut 3-hour version of Doctor Sleep, which is a sequel to The Shining.
Right.
And if you've never read, first you need to read it. You need to read Doctor Sleep. It's so excellent. It's
Well, the
so
same thing with the
excellent.
original Shining. Like, read the book. I
Yes,
remember reading The
it's so
Shining
good and
when I
so
first
different,
read
right?
it. When I first read it, I was terrified to turn the next page. That was the first time I'd ever experienced that. We're like, fuck, fuck. Like,
And Pet Sematary. The
yeah.
book Pet Sematary is fucking terrifying,
Mm-hmm.
and the movies are ridiculous. But anyway, Doctor Sleep is one of those adaptations where it's so good
Mm-hmm.
that 3 hours goes by like that, and the 2.5-hour version is great, but not
Mm-hmm.
as satisfying as the 3-hour adaptation. And the 2.5-hour one is back on streaming. The 3-hour one you can only like purchase on Amazon right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good at like every aspect of it, and it's a very difficult book to adapt, which is also true of The Shining, because while The Shining as the movie itself, which I think most people who love Stephen King know that Stephen King doesn't love the movie of The Shining
Right.
because they changed so much. And my biggest issue with the movie of The Shining, like it's visually stunning and it's psychological horror and it's beautiful, and they shot it here in Oregon at
Mm-hmm.
up in up in the mountains, and that's a real place, and you can
Mm-hmm.
go there, and they have all
Oh, I'm
Shining toys,
planning on it.
whatever.
Yeah, once my
I know
like
you'll
when my kid's like 17, I think we're gonna go stay
Yeah, no,
there
that'll be
for
a great.
Halloween week. I'm sure it's packed.
Oh, yeah, and then there's also in Portland now, there's a bar called The Hallway, and it's a Shining-themed bar, a
Oh
whole
shit.
bar, and you can do karaoke there because The Shining's not scary enough.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but what Doctor Sleep my biggest issue with the movie of The Shining, especially if you've read the book. First of all, they changed it from a topiary to a
Mm-hmm.
maze because he wanted to film it. Kubrick wanted to play with his steady cam, and that's why they
Well,
built a maze instead.
also the idea that they would be able to have like a hedge bunny and a hedge I forget, wolf or whatever, come
Bear.
alive
Well,
and
right, that
attack
might have
anybody.
looked silly.
They couldn't have done it
Might have
back
looked
then
silly.
at all. It was just not
No.
possible unless it was going to be like claymation or some shit like that, and there was
Right.
no way to make it without it looking stupid. So it was actually a really good
Ridiculous.
solution. I happen to think too
Yeah.
that was one of the failures of the book. That part of it, the scariest part, was when he's in the old like piece of pipe, like the tubing in the playground, and like I talked about this when I was a kid, like at Peaks Mill in Kentucky, we'd have like a swing and we'd have a merry-go-round and shit like that, but they'd bring over 3 piles of dirt and just you play King of the Hill, just push each other off a pile of
Right.
dirt. The other thing they would give you is unused sewer pipe. They bring over like 3 rolls of sewer pipe buried halfway in the ground, so now you have a tunnel and you can climb on top of it, but it's just a piece of leftover fucking sewer pipe. And he's playing in that in the movie, and the snow falls and traps him inside it, and he's trying to dig his way out, and behind him in the tunnel down like 15 feet away, he hears the scritching of a child's bony fingers that's tried to
So
claw its way out
creepy.
behind him. That's way scarier than a giant bunny made out of shrubbery.
For
A
sure.
shrubbery!
For sure. A shrubbery.
Right.
And then you have to chop down the tallest tree with a herring.
Oh,
Anyway, and they also
come
did a
on.
TV
Oh,
movie
please.
version. They did a TV movie version of it where Steven Weber played Jack, and they did attempt the topiary thing, which was still weird because it was like in the 90s. But
It was the
for
early
me,
2000s,
watching
I think, but
early
it was
2000s,
more
late 90s,
recent than
early
that.
2000s,
Yeah.
but it's a more faithful adaptation of the book, which the conceit is, of course, that the hotel possesses Jack Torrance, and that's why he, does what he does, and why the previous caretaker slaughtered his wife and twin daughters, and that's all of that. The problem is when you watch the movie, you already think Jack Nicholson is crazy. It doesn't seem like a descent into madness. He seems mad from the beginning. When he's doing his interview, even, he seems a little off, right? You're like,
They'll love it.
no, it's fucking Jack Nicholson.
Right. He
So
looks
you
crazy
cast
anyways.
Jack
Right.
Nicholson fresh off, and I mean, the book came out in what, 79 or 80, so we're talking early 80s Jack Nicholson, not that far away from his other previous cuckoo banana is crazy that Jack Nicholson roles. So if they had cast a more milquetoast sort of actor, someone who didn't have as much of a history of being cuckoo or wild or whatever, if they had cast someone more like Steven Weber in the movie, it might have been more believable that he's descending into madness because he looks like a regular guy who wears chinos. But Jack Nicholson looks like a guy who will fucking stay up for 4 days and then murder you from the outset.
In defense of that, there is a backstory of that when he drinks, he's already got a temper. He dislocated his kid's arm. She smokes a lot to cover what he's like. So the idea is that he's not just nuts before he gets there, and it's not just the place. And
they
it
have
might
a history.
It might have nothing to do depending on what you believe. If she starts drinking with him, is the idea is that they both start losing their mind, and the kid's the only sober person in the building, and that's why he's the hero of the story or whatever. But the whole backstory, where it's like, a couple of extra foot-pounds per second. Right?
A momentary loss of muscular coordination.
Right. That was my favorite part, like that snap. And that was more a description of his snap than what he did to the kid. Like what happened to
And when she's talking about it, she's like, it's the kind of thing you do a million times with a child, and pulled his arm and it just popped out of the socket. And the first time you see him really snap in the movie, like there's that weird part where he's looking out the window while they're playing, but then when he's typing and he's like, when you know I'm in here, when you hear me typing, what the fuck I'm doing in here, you're like, okay, here we go. But also you're waiting for that already because he's Jack Nicholson. So I would say, like,
well, the music is telling you. The music is telling you. There's fucking cello music from the first ride up the mountain. It's like, well, so you should eat your breakfast. You mean they ate each other up? Yep. Right. Like, and like the movie is great because it is about the inevitable, and that's why it does. That's why there's no traditional turn in it. Is that that this family, this guy, this circumstance, because of either psychic, like the narrowing of this psychic moment where they're just brought to experience this. This is going to happen, whether it happens in their apartment or at this crazy hotel. It doesn't matter. The fates are aligning because this guy was always there. So there is he's not going to grow, and my mom took me to see this movie when I was, it came out in 78, I was 8 years old. Because I looked
I think it came out in 81. Like 81.
Yeah, because
the book came out in 80, or it came out in the movie came out in 80, and the book came out in 79.
Because that's why she brought me, because I looked just like him. I looked like Danny when I was that kid. Yeah,
so
and she was like,
how terrifying was?
It wasn't terrifying at all because I was watching it from the kid's perspective, and I'm like, he's got these powers. He's aware more than anyone else, and he's the survivor. He's in the book. He reads about how Native Americans used to travel in straight lines, and then they would appear to disappear by stopping, backing up, and hiding in a tree line. And that's where he learns that trick, is from the books he's reading in the library. And the two little girls tell him basically to read the books because that was part of their plan.
But that's not in the movie.
No.
And so
there's no room for it. Right.
No.
So, but again, a movie about inevitability, which in and of itself is effectively what, every walking down the steps scene in a horror film is about. Like it is, whether it's 20 seconds or 2 hours. It's you are about to meet your fate. How will you respond? Are you going to survive this meeting of this meeting the tortured monster, or are you going to get consumed by it? Whatever that is, whether it's Jimmy, where'd you guys go? This isn't funny. Like whatever that moment is.
Dad, is that you?
That's
I
the
hate that one.
That's the that's The Shining compressed into 40 seconds or whenever that person gets stabbed or whatever. And when you stretch it out, that's when you get like a psychological thriller aspect to it. Whether it's hunting Buffalo Bill in Silence of the Lambs to the point where you're trapped alone in a basement. He's got night vision goggles and you can't see.
Oh my God, that scene.
Right.
Yeah. And Dr. Sleep delivers a lot of psychological stuff because so much of it is Danny as an adult trying to suppress his shine, but can't. It always will be part of him. And what he sees and what he experiences and how he tries to dull it with drugs and alcohol and what happens to him and how he tries to redeem himself. And just when like he's trying to just live a regular life, then he is contacted by this little girl who has shining beyond. And then there are like these energy vampires who travel around the country eating the shine of children. And it's just like, bah! And so and basically every Stephen King book, once he became a parent, was about his biggest fear, which is losing a child, which he also has said repeatedly in interviews, like, because people would ask him, what scares you? And he would say, well, going in to wake up one of my children for school and finding them dead. That's my biggest fear. And so that's why so many children in his books repeatedly, like It and The Shining, and he has always there are children in peril. I mean, in Salem's Lot, what's the scariest scene in Salem's Lot for kids? It's when Ralphie is outside the window or Danny's outside the window. Let me in. That shit's fucking scary for kids. And so, but you look now and that adaptation of Salem's Lot that Lance Kerwin was in with David Soul, like it's kitschy 70s and Gen X touchstone moment. But if you read the book Salem's Lot, which I always encourage people to do, because it's beautiful, it's wonderfully written, and it's like Our Town but with vampires is basically what Stephen King wrote.
Right.
And what makes Stephen King's books scary as well is that he sets them in very realistic places. He sets them in a small town. He sets them in a hotel. He sets them in town, just in normal. Look at what he's doing, like the Welcome to Derry and everything with it. It's Castle Rock, these haunted towns that could be your town. And so that's what makes them so visceral and what makes people connect to them. But with Dr. Sleep, it's a multi-level thing because like children are hurt and there's psychic stuff, but then there's also what Mike Flanagan does with that movie in recreating all of those scenes from The Overlook and recreating like the actress he casts as Wendy, the little boy he casts as Danny. He uses a lot of the same actors over and over again, but the actor that he casts as Dick, like all of it is just like you remember how you felt when you watched The Shining the first time, and it's so evocative. And one of the scenes that I love and what you miss if you don't watch the director's cut, and then we'll get to politics in a second, but there is an extended scene in the director's cut when and I don't want to spoil it, but it is between Henry Thomas and Ewan McGregor, and it goes on, and you don't even feel time passing. It's so perfectly executed in a moment that so well if you've watched the movie The Shining, and if you know the story, but the relationship between Danny and his father's relationship to the hotel. And so all of it comes full circle. And then there's Rebecca Ferguson, who's such an amazing actor, and she drives this story, and she's so, it's just everything about it is perfect, and I could watch it every week probably. And there was this one time, I don't know, 2BN323 says there has never been a Barlow as scary as the original. See, that's the point. The point is that Barlow wasn't supposed to look like that. That's a scary effect for the TV audience or whatever, for people who haven't read Salem's Lot. But what makes Barlow so scary is that he looks like a regular person. Like he's tall and he's handsome and he has like kind of a foreign accent, but he's charming
Well,
and
like the
he's
Antichrist would
sexy.
be. That's why we call Trump the Timu Antichrist, because he does not have those
Right.
traits.
But like Dracula, in the same way Dracula could seduce women
Mm-hmm.
in a sexy way, like the Frank Langella Dracula was very sexy.
Mm-hmm.
In 79. Barlow in the book is described as someone who's just charming. He's just charming. He'll walk
Mm-hmm.
up to someone and strike up a conversation and then hypnotize them.
Mm-hmm.
But he looks like a regular person. He doesn't look like Nosferatu.
Right.
And for Stephen King, the scariest thing is what happens in the regular day-to-day, not
Mm-hmm.
someone who travels to Transylvania to a castle. Yeah, that's scary, but it is scarier when
Mm-hmm.
your daily, normal, everyday life is interrupted by the monsters instead of. And so that's what makes life scary for parents. What monster is going to come in and hurt my child? And that
Right.
it plays a and that's what his later books do is they tap into, they're focused on children, but they tap into the parental fear of what can happen to a child. And
Mm-hmm.
so, you know, George Hamilton, in Love at First Bite. That was a
Sure.
funny Dracula.
Yeah.
Sort of funny, but it hasn't aged well.
I have so I really appreciate it. First of all, it's I love this conversation, by the way, and I can't wait till Trump is a thing in the past so we can discuss these things on the
We
regular.
just
and
talk
that
about
this is
movies and
Mhm.
music
Yeah,
and
yeah, go back to
books and who
yeah, like
cares?
yeah.
I will not want, by the way, just 1 second in the chat.
Mhm.
The Exorcist fucking traumatized me at the age of 15.
Yeah, it didn't do anything to
I
me.
watched
I
I
remember
watched it alone, which was stupid. I watched it while I was babysitting, which is dumb. And then the other dumb thing that I did was tell my mother I was going to watch it. And so she was at home watching it on HBO while I was babysitting watching it on HBO. And every time something scary happened, she would call and the phone on the wall would ring like, and that was fucking scarier. That made The
Mhm.
Exorcist scarier for me because she
Mhm.
was like, "I don't think you should be watching this." And I'm like, "Leave me alone." But the
Mhm.
thing that was the scariest for me is that the people I was babysitting for had a sliding glass door to the patio, but they didn't have a curtain over it. And I kept seeing the reflection of the devil face in the window of the door.
Mhm.
And that's it. And it doesn't really, it doesn't come back as much now because it's been decades since I've seen it. But I used to have really bad stress dreams, and when I would have stress dreams, I would dream about Linda Blair or sharks. And so, but Linda Blair in your dreams is not what you want to see. You don't
Well,
want to
when
see
I'm
that before
no,
bed or
when I
any of
met
it.
Linda Blair, she was
Not
dating
again.
Murray Langstrom, the unknown comic. So I have a totally different picture of who she is. That's true. They used to, you know,
That's great though. I love that.
they were a
I
couple,
love
which is just fantastic.
didn't
So
know that. Yeah.
there's a scary there are interestingly enough in The Shining, the conversation in the bathroom between Delbert Grady and Jack, and where he
Yes.
said they use the N word so casually. I
Yep.
remember that was the first time I can remember laughing in a scene and being terrified at the same time, like having a
Mhm.
being yanked out of that when he's like an N word and he goes
An
an
N-word
N word
cook.
cook, and then he goes
Cook.
an N word like that, like when he does like, and he's saying it like, are you saying what I think you're saying? Like, and it was so odd and funny, especially Jack Nicholson, the way he said it, like he'd been hit in the head with a
Mhm.
hammer,
Yeah.
was great because you're like, he's vacillating in and out of being drunk and not. And they did like 50 takes. So like any version of this, could have been used, and so he could
Yeah.
variations of the performance. He could make the characters seem schizo. That, and the other thing, of course,
Yeah.
is that he like Shelley Duvall and Jack Nicholson were doing so much fucking blow on that movie.
Yeah, you can tell.
She was a fucking like skeleton. I my first project ever, I worked with her. She was lovely. Poor thing, like her
Mhm.
like her mental illness over time. I'm like, wonder how much of that was jump started during the 70s and the stuff that she was
Yeah, I
doing,
mean,
whether in
Jesus
that
Christ.
or in Annie Hall,
Yeah.
doing that that much blow and being that skinny. But she was so
Popeye.
terrified. Yes, she was under the impression that because of Dario Argento and other horror people, there was this thing about Cannibal Holocaust that they'd used a real dead body, and
Mhm.
that Kubrick was going to go a step further, and so she was under the impression, because she was so blitzed out of her mind, that he was going to kill her and film it,
Oh
and that
my God,
the axe,
really?
yeah, and that the axe coming through the door she believed was Stanley. And there's this idea, that they, the way they shoot it with the camera, boom, like that is so like
Yeah.
it's Fincher's entire career in that one
Yeah.
camera. Like you can tell everything David Fincher did in everything from Fight Club to fucking Mindhunter, anything that he did, Panic Room is based on the
Seven.
recreating that
Yeah.
Jack pulling it back and hitting the door and the camera stopping exactly at that moment. The camera as God,
Yeah.
right? But I would argue that
Yeah.
there are movies where, and this is a wonderfully silly example. So this is a movie called District B13, B30, and this is French parkour movie. It's like an action movie. These two dudes,
Okay.
these two dudes are parkour guys in France. They're both fighters. The stunts in it are fucking amazing. But this girl is this guy's sister. And he's a cop. And in the beginning, he takes a bunch of a bad guy's drugs and he destroys them in this area, District B13, which is this isolated area outside of Paris, where they've trapped basically all the bad guys, where they built a wall, almost like the Gaza wall, outside this area because it just got so bad. There's a scene in it where he gets his, they've got his sister, and they're holding her hostage, which again goes to that point of like they've got her, and how do you get her? And this cop, this guy helps him go get her. And then this guy has to go. The cop has to go the other way. This guy takes her to a police station. They go, all right, we'll take care of her. Don't worry about it. We've technically got to arrest you, but it'll all work out. They lock him. They cuff him. And then they take him to a jail cell. They uncuff him. They close the jail cell. And then the guy that kidnapped his sister walks into the station. And it's abundantly clear that everybody there works for him. And now he's in a cage. And his sister's out there with this dude. And
with the bad guys.
Yeah. And the scene where they take her away is one of the most like riveting, terrifying, heartbreaking, enraging scenes. It's just great. And the whole movie's worth it, even if you don't like action movies, just for that part of it. To the point where the cop, spoiler alert, but the cop who's like the sergeant comes over and goes, what am I supposed to do? The guy runs the area. There's nothing I could do. And he goes, you don't know what you can do? And the guy, I'll tell you what you can do. And the guy leans forward. He reaches through the bars, grabs the guy's head, pulls him through, and then jumps up and comes knee down on the dude's head for letting his sister.
I bet that's a very satisfying moment for the viewer.
It is. But then he goes to jail and 2 years pass, and they've got his sister this whole time.
Oh, man.
It's,
all right.
And so that's even more like it ends with that satisfying moment, but then it goes like 2 years later or whatever. And you're like, oh, fuck. Like, right? Just like that goes to that whole, like, that having a responsibility for someone or feeling you do and having no ability to respond. Right? That terrifying thing.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
Let's. So we got a half hour left. Let's talk politics. So speaking of which, our ability to respond, like voting and giving a shit and understanding that we're in an age of politics and not social circle jerks, the way some people want to turn it into these days. Couple of things. And this is sweet. While Trump is talking, he's in Asia, by the way, talking like he's had his head in a microwave. I don't know if you saw.
Not new. I haven't seen anything because I don't like to look at him. So
okay, yeah. So
I'm still devastated by the White House thing. So I'm still getting over that part of the White House destruction thing that the Republicans aren't commenting on. The only thing. What bothers me about it is, first of all, that he did it without permits or permission, and no one's holding him accountable, and it feels like a violation.
He doesn't. No, that's the thing. That's up to us. That's on us. That's we've operated like people like that. There will be that. This is why we have all the rules we have. We might have started off with "Thou shalt not kill," "Thou shalt not steal," but now we have like varying degrees. And you only go to jail for these, and that's a fine, and whatever. Like there's a reason why it bifurcates out, because somebody over the time finds some wiggle room, gets around it, and says, "Wait a minute, it says thou shalt not kill, but if I hadn't killed him, he would have killed me." Okay, good point. And then we got to rewrite the law. And the same thing is true of like, we didn't think we needed a rule to go, this is the people's house, you're a temp. You don't get to fucking knock the whole fucking thing down unless it's for national security reasons, which is like what Truman did when he built the bunker underneath it, which Trump loves to go and hide in anytime there's a protest at the gates. And again, this like National Guard on the streets has more to do with his fear of a protest crowd organically occurring, like one of the marches that happens in other states happening in D.C. right out front of him, because it terrifies him.
Which
and if it
should
happened,
be every day.
Right, but that's why they aren't. They're not giving permits, and so if they did one organically, the National Guard would quell it or push it down. He would, the idea is that he would try to trigger the Insurrection Act, so people know not to do it there because they don't want violence. It's really just a protest. And if they will use any excuse. But Trump, if he saw a crowd as big as the ones that happened in Chicago or Los Angeles or anywhere else, he'd go and fucking hide in the basement again. And he knows it. So they're trying to create a buffer zone around downtown Washington, like the capital area, just to make him feel safe.
And they're upgrading the bunker, said somebody in the chat.
Of the kingdom.
No. Like the bunker itself is relatively the same. They don't need to.
None of this should be happening is the point, though. Like,
yeah.
And my biggest, we can argue what's worse and what's not. What I wanted to know about this that I haven't seen anybody ask Caroline about, because she said that his only priority is this fucking ballroom right now. Did anybody go through the entire East Wing and remove all of the artifacts and log them and pack them away for the future? Or did he just bulldoze the shit out of the place without preserving 1 ounce of American history? We don't know. We don't know what he did. We don't know. That's
right.
Years like all the first ladies and what they did and everything Eleanor Roosevelt did and subsequent first ladies and all of that history in the East Wing is gone. We don't know if anybody logged any of those artifacts and packed them away somewhere or sent them to the National Archives. We don't know because no one's asking those questions.
Right.
I am, but who's going to answer me? I don't have a network. I don't have a job. No one believes what I say or wants to answer my questions. But no one in the room is going to ask her that question. And so this, and we've talked about this too, like my biggest issue with all of this happening at all was their ability to control information and the way that they put it out there and the way that people aren't getting up in arms about things.
Here's the thing. I'm all about like logging these things. Like this will have to be remedied later because there is currently, this is outside of what I would call our locus of control. It is, there's no law against it. So technically he could bulldoze the whole fucking place and build a gold palace if he wanted to legally, because we've never needed that rule before. Now we know we need the rule. And if he does that, then we will take all the rubble that they go and bury someplace else and rebuild the thing from fucking scratch at the cost of the taxpayers of $1.5 billion or some shit like that, and reinforce it and move a fucking tunnel to the Pentagon and all the things they've wanted to do to the structure itself for its own safety and security forever. We'll do all that stuff then after he's long gone. It's gonna, things will change over time anyways, and they do. But in the meantime, Yes. In the meantime, again, this is the Epstein ballroom is a distraction from the Epstein files, and he's running,
and the Epstein shut down.
Yes, and they are running him fucking ragged with this Operation Look Busy shit, because he's hoping by stacking all these alleged peace deals and that shit where he get like, I've solved world peace. Why are you coming after me for this whole, I spent 25 years with this pedophile and I wouldn't have even been on anybody's radar if this dude and his his buddies hadn't backed me. You would right. I wouldn't have gotten to the part of becoming the guy on The Apprentice if Putin via these other people and Epstein's substructure hadn't cradled me and protected me from my own shitty bankruptcies. I'd be another example of a New York second or third generation failed billionaire and nothing special. And so why are you bugging me with this? I solved world peace, which is just fucking bullshit. Here, I want to show you a piece of something real quick. So this is him at that ASEAN summit.
Summit here in beautiful Kuala Lumpur. As you know, this has been an incredibly successful day for Malaysia. Great honor to be here. I promised I'd be here when the Prime Minister helped us so beautifully with our peace treaty among two very friendly countries, I think we can say right now.
No.
And here I am, and it's really something to see what you've done.
I kind of think he means Pakistan and India right then, which are not.
He doesn't know where he is.
No, and also
he does not know where he is.
There's still a dispute over Kashmir. That's not going away. They're not friendly now. As a matter of fact, the only reason there aren't more of these dust-ups happening is because Pakistan has decided that taking a chunk of Afghanistan is more strategically valuable right now than Kashmir, because if they usurp certain areas around Afghanistan, with it will come the Muslim tribes there that will fight against India just in a Muslim versus Hindu fight, even if they don't agree with what the Pakistani government wants to do. They'll just go, oh, okay.
He doesn't understand that.
No.
He doesn't understand how any of it works, and he probably didn't sleep the whole flight from DC to there. And he's jet lagged and on Adderall, and also he's so fucking dying, right? And he's not healthy. And when will his veins win this battle? How many flights does he have to take? Think about how pressurized that cabin must be on Air Force One.
Right.
Imagine with the amount of flying around that he does, his veins should have won that contest already.
I wouldn't doubt. I wouldn't doubt that they have him in a hyperbaric chamber, like an oxygen chamber, while he's flying, just to protect him from.
That's his med bed. That's the med bed that everyone thinks exists. Yeah, probably.
For the United States and for all nations across this magnificent region.
Also, he's got the slobbery lateral lisp. That's that's the Adderall that doesn't when it's not working. So when Adderall starts to, when it's not working in your brain, it overcompensates in other areas, and you get this kind of lateral lisp thing. That's when you're too gacked out or too tired for it to work. Yeah. Right.
Or his dentures could be slipping. Also,
no,
we've seen that.
It's not dentures. He gets new teeth every 18 months or some shit like that.
Like a shark.
Yeah, they replace his veneers every 18 months.
So gross. Everything about him is disgusting.
Yeah.
And
they're all watching and they're seeing what's taking place. Thank you very much. It's a great honor.
Does anybody look at him and think he's
Today,
a leader?
the Prime Minister and I signed a major trade deal between the United States and Malaysia, and together we took part in the signing of a historic peace agreement ending the hostilities between Cambodia and Thailand. We're calling it the Kuala Lumpur Peace Accords. I once again want to congratulate Prime Minister Hun Manet.
I got to tell you, there's a special place in my heart.
Acetaminophen.
Right. Yep. There's a special place in my heart for him trying to pronounce foreign names or listen to reporters with accents. That whole...
That's adorable.
So what? She's saying house. She said house. House. It's house. Listen to the context of the rest of the fucking... You didn't get the rest of it either. Okay.
By the way, Joe Biden made a speech yesterday. A really good one. Sounded fully coherent. He says it's not time to give up.
Yeah.
He's like, don't get disappointed. Don't get discouraged, get mad, keep fighting is basically what Joe Biden said. Joe Biden, who just completed a course of radiation treatment for his stage 4 pancreatic cancer, is still more spry and verbally there than Trump is right now. And you do a side-by-side of the mush mouth that you just showed us and the Joe Biden speech where he's still fired up and believes in America and he's the president we remember him to be. Show that to
people. Right, here you go. Here you go. Hold on. Here you go.
America.
Look at this guy.
On our respect for the institutions that govern and guarantee a free society. It depends on a presidency with limited powers. It depends on a functioning Congress. It depends on autonomous judiciary. It depends on a free and...
By the way, can you imagine Trump saying autonomous judiciary?
Dude, I was literally going to say the same exact thing. He doesn't know what autonomous judiciary even means, let alone...
That Trump would...
I love Joe Biden so much.
Yeah.
I love
free health care for illegal... look.
Like, can you imagine him trying to just...
Action replays in magnified fortune.
Autonomous judiciary. Like, yeah.
I miss him every day, all day.
Institutions reflect the timeless words. We hold these truths to be self-evident. And we, the people. Ongoing debates about the power and the exercise of power.
Quote.
Debates about whether we lead by the example of our power or the power of our example.
I love
it. We show the courage to stand up to the abuse of power, or we're going to yield to it. We face these existential questions.
We're supposed to have a president who loves America and loves Americans.
Right.
That's what we're supposed to have.
Yeah.
Now, good, bad, or indifferent, your history of Democratic presidents shows a history of devotion to the job, putting country ahead of party, putting country ahead of own personal gain. Jimmy Carter had to sell off his peanut farm. All the things that Democratic presidents have done to improve this country, to make Americans' lives better, are right there in that clip. He is the embodiment of what Democratic presidents do. They give you hope, they give you support, and they don't take anything away. They provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare. It's right there in the... And no Republican does that. And what makes me very angry in this moment that we are living in right now is that we didn't have to have this, because Democrats should have fought harder last November. And don't get me started on that, because it would have looked bad. I think it would have looked a lot better than what the White House looks like right now.
Yeah.
The other thing that makes me angry out here in the hinterland of what we do is that not enough of the truth gets to the general public. I don't know how to reach the general public because I don't know where they get their news from, and I don't know how people process information anymore. And I find this in an example in my own life. My mother lives in New York City. My stepfather is a Republican who refuses to vote for Democrats. My mother is a lifelong Democrat. I told my mother not to vote for Eric Adams, and she didn't listen to me. And so this time around, I'm trying to get her to listen to me about Mom Donning. She has absorbed too much of my stepfather's like residual xenophobia. She cannot comprehend that there's not truth about him going out there in the world. And she thinks he's an anti-Semite who hates Israel. And I'm like, no, that's not it at all. And she is still adamant because she remembers Mario Cuomo as someone who did good for the state and for the city. And she's voting by default for the name. And I keep telling her, Andrew Cuomo is not the guy. You don't want a rapist for your mayor. You don't want that. You do not want that. And what I ask you to do is what Joe Biden asks, is that you need to plant trees that you know you're not going to sit under. That's democracy.
Right.
That is what we do. That's our votes, right? And so I say to my mother, plant a tree for your granddaughter who's living in New York City right now. That's what we do. That's what Democrats do. Democrats deliver, Republicans remove. And that there is no conversation right now about how disgusting Republicans are.
Right.
Like, no one's holding the Republican Party accountable enough. The media is certainly not doing it. And
well, there's no mechanism. Here's the thing. First of all, I disagree. I think there's plenty of pushback on stuff, even from within MAGA-dom. They're freaking out about Epstein. They're freaking out about, like they talk about it on Fox, even about this, like, hey, prices aren't really coming down. And there was a huge spike in avian flu again. And they're like, we're not prepared for it. They just wiped out 6.6 million chickens again. That's going to drive the price of eggs up right in time for Thanksgiving. Like, they're freaking out about it. So I don't agree that no one's holding them accountable in terms of the media. Where I do have an issue, and again, this is about us and voting, and consistently voting is that there is no material way of controlling them, because in our Genocide Joe, what's the difference? Coin flip, Harris or Trump? Is there really a difference? As if she would have done any of this shit. Those folks make up a section of the electorate that either need to be shamed back in line by their own behavior, not by what I say, but because they are genuinely reflective about what the result of their actions or inactions were. That all the, and again, until Democrats start beating our chests about the programs we create as loudly as we decry them when they're torn down, we're going to be stuck in this fucking cycle. And I'm not going to sit back and let people pat themselves on the back for going down fighting about something where you could have had genuine progress. Now, before we move forward, I want to show you one thing that kind of ties into this whole Biden, where he is in the speech he gave, where he was able to say autonomous judiciary, and Trump Trump sounded like someone was actively hitting him with a 2x4 while he spoke. Let's see, there we go. This guy, remember this bit?
That
voted
fucking
for Biden.
guy.
Hold on. The people who voted for Biden.
They're like, what did I do?
Right.
Like, what did I choose? Like, how is this guy?
Yeah, you just can't listen to an interview or he's saying some of the stuff he says that just makes no sense at all. It's like you can't listen to those interviews and feel like you made a good decision. I don't know how you could.
Did you hear what he said like yesterday or a couple days ago?
Mm-mm.
He was talking about the Revolutionary War. He's like, one of the reasons why we lost the Revolutionary War, one of the problems with the Revolutionary War was they didn't have enough airports.
Yeah.
Did he really say that?
Like, what the hell?
Like, pull him.
I meant
It's
that.
crazy.
If you had any other job and you were talking like that,
Yeah.
they would go, hey, you're done.
If you talk like that to a
Wait for
doctor
it.
at your
Yeah.
medical exam to fight, they'd be
Yeah.
like, okay, like obviously they're not fighting. You would also, here's 8 weeks of being helped out by a professional, like
right. You might not ever do anything again.
No, it's it's one of the wildest things ever.
This is where Jamie interrupts, I think.
Insane.
Yeah.
Who is that guy? I don't know who that guy is.
It doesn't matter. He's a fighter guest.
Is
or
he like a
somebody. He's on-
UFC fighter person? I don't know any of these
it's
people.
immaterial
I know
because
who that is.
all of this is an idiotic, dipshit, unforced error by Joe Rogan, which he is still unapologetic for. And you know that whole, like, if he said that, we should just fucking pull him. All right, then explain to me what, a magnified fortune is, asshole. But listen to this.
Lighting you to protect. It's just people are so afraid of Trump being in office and Republicans being in office.
A few moments later.
Hanging out with the guy, I'm like, man.
Well, it's just the media narrative. I mean, so many people were fed this lie that the Russia collusion.
Yeah.
Was this?
Is this the video you're talking about?
Let me see what this one says. I don't think it is.
What? By the way, the same stable genius that said the biggest problem we had in the Revolutionary War is we didn't have enough airports.
Wait for it.
Yeah, that's it.
Whoa.
Right. Yeah, that's it. That's it. Did you hear the top of that sentence? You fucking moron. Wait, listen.
Just for the record.
Is that fake?
It's not fake, but he was referencing Trump saying that. Here's what Trump saying it in 2019.
Oh.
Donald Trump said something
Oh.
about that. He didn't say Jesus. He said a stable genius, and that's where the transcription.
Let me hear what it says. What did he say?
In June of 1775, the Continental Congress created a unified army out of the revolutionary forces encamped around Boston and New York, and named after the great George Washington, Commander-in-Chief. The Continental Army suffered a bitter winter of Valley Forge, found glory across the waters of the Delaware, and seized victory from Cornwallis of Yorktown. Our army manned the airport. It ran the ramparts. It took over the airports. It did everything it had to do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So he fucked up.
No, he didn't fuck up.
No, he fucked up? No.
No, he is a fuck up. You fucked up, Joe. No, he didn't fuck up. Biden made a joke about him fucking up, which as a comedian you would think is something you're aware of, the at least structure of how that fucking works. Biden was, let me help this out for the fucking kill Tony dipshits. He was roasting Trump. And
That's right.
And Joe, I have my own comedy club because I can't get laughs anywhere else. Rogan couldn't comprehend a roast. Didn't know the context,
He
couldn't
wasn't
understand.
listening.
Right. And
Also,
not only did that, not only wasn't listening, actively participated in idiotic disinfo on purpose, like of his own
Live.
free will and accord.
In the moment.
Talked out of his ass. And by the way, that's not the first time he's brought that up. He brought it up on the show,
You
but I
think?
guarantee it. He yammered it to every fucking, to Tony, Heathcliff and all those guys, at their little fucking comedy garage sale that they do in that dump every couple of weeks. I guarantee he threw this around. Like, did you Biden thought we had airports in the revolution? He said it a bunch of fucking times. And he didn't.
So dumb.
And had he not mentioned it in front of Jamie and asked him to play the clip, and then the clip itself refuted what he did, and Jamie's job is to make sure that Rogan's only as stupid as he's still useful.
Okay.
Ground the fucking thing to a halt and said that. Do you think he ever walked that back and like, wow, well then in retrospect, Biden's line was funny. Biden's line was a good slam. But the fact that Joe, I have my own comedy club because no one will laugh at me anywhere else, Rogan, can't get a joke. Can't understand a joke.
And millions of people listen to him.
Right.
That's what's also so frustrating, right? You and I are smart people who say smart things
True.
with humor,
Yep.
and you get a decent audience,
Oh, yes.
around the two, right? And you have good people. I mean, the sparklers are the best audience online because they're devoted and they're loyal, but they're also smart. And so when something like that, like, you're the one who should have the #1 podcast, not that
Thank you.
mook, because you're welcome. And in the last 10 minutes that we have, I would like to give everybody an assignment that's very important. Because while we're talking about all of these other things, and I'm personally frustrated by the lack of Republicans caring about the people who elected them. Now, we know that's a traditional thing and that's a historic thing and whatever. In this moment that we are living in right now, all of us human beings on the ground in the United States of America, November 1st, which is Saturday, you're going to see your healthcare premiums triple. And if you receive SNAP benefits, they're gone. And doesn't matter how much it is, they're taking it from you, even though it is actually illegal for them to be doing this. And I have a screenshot that I've shared all over. Like, they're supposed to keep SNAP going regardless of what happens. They're supposed to, and they're refusing. So take that for what it is. Take it for what it is, which is Republicans are fine with their constituents not eating because of the Epstein files. That's where we are. That is the truth. That is the truth at its core. Your job as an American citizen this week is to call Republicans or email them or tweet them and use the facts to shame them. Because like you say, they can't be embarrassed, but they can be shamed.
Right.
So what I've started doing...
Other way around. They can't be shamed, they can be embarrassed. They can be embarrassed.
All of them. Did I say that? They can be embarrassed, but not shamed. So, but when you... And also, like our friend Brian Karam says, just ask the question. So what I have been doing, I have a tab open on my computer for the list of Republican representatives by state, starting with Alaska all the way to Wyoming. Lisa, and we're seeing some movement in the Senate. Like Lisa Murkowski wants the government reopened because her constituents in Alaska are suffering terribly. Almost 10% of Alaskans are on SNAP. They also, however, which no one is talking about in the media, there's a humongous Typhoon Halong, obliterated indigenous communities all around Alaska, and they all had to be evacuated. Those who didn't die had to be evacuated, and they don't know if they'll ever be able to return home or rebuild. And what's happening in a shutdown? You can't get FEMA funds. The people of Alaska desperately need FEMA funds along with their SNAP benefits, and their health care premiums are going to triple right now. And that's across the country. And what do we always say? Red states are going to get hit worse than blue states. That's just true, because red states survive thanks to blue states. A little bit of socialism in there with your democracy. I have started shaming
None of which is socialism, by the way.
embarrassing,
It's just
or
democratic
whatever,
taxation. Right. But sure.
all you have to do,
All you got to do is give a shit.
go to your
Right.
well, we do, right?
Yeah.
And so go ask the Google how many people per state are on SNAP benefits. Take a screenshot and then tweet it to those representatives or call their offices and say, why is like I did this morning, because I'm very angry. I get SNAP benefits. I only get $300 a month, and most of it goes to giving my cats chicken and maybe buying myself some salads. But other than $300 is not a lot of money, but it helps. And so I called the only Republican representative in Oregon, Representative Cliff Bentz, Bentz. He's representative for Oregon District 2. And I called his office a couple of weeks ago. And then I called again this morning. And the same boring blah woman is just like, well, I can pass along your comments. And I go, you can pass along my comments, but what happens? What happens when you pass along my comment? Nothing. Your comms director didn't respond to my email. He doesn't respond to my tweets. I asked his Democratic colleagues at a press conference what they do, and they say he won't talk to them. So he won't talk to Representative Salinas Dexter Bonamici, who's my rep. He won't talk to anyone. What are we supposed to do? I told this woman on the phone, I said, I have this week only to fight for this. And I'm so frustrated that Republicans just don't care. And so my call to action, and someone in the chat was like, I don't like listening to Tara complain. We don't have a whole lot to celebrate right now, Pally. So, but again, I don't complain without offering solutions. My solution is take action, because I can't just sit here and watch it happen. Me personally. If you're a person who doesn't like to make phone calls, every single member of the House of Representatives has a website. You can go to their website and fill out their forms and say, this is what I'm mad about. But it is more effective if you do it directly where other people can see you doing it, because we all have social media. We all know where the Republicans are. We all know how to contact them. If you're not fighting, if you're not on SNAP benefits and you're kind of shrugging at this, don't, because your healthcare premiums are still going to triple. There's nothing for you to be shrugging at right now. There's not a lot for you to just let it go. Hold
on. I think when people are shrugging, it's and I won't speak for anybody in the chat room, but I will say that a lot of this ship has sailed in the election last year, and like I said, these are two trains that have left the station that are heading towards each other. A few of them are ours in terms of our voters, or what we would think of as our voters, people who at least allegedly believe in the same things we believe, which is some form of universal health care, some way of like working to deal with climate change and homelessness, and making sure that like medical and technological advances benefit mankind as much as possible, especially when they require our tax dollars, and maybe not having a $1 trillion military budget until you have you're willing to have a $500 billion medical plan for all your citizens, for example, which wouldn't even require that. So I think a lot of people, though, are recognizing that with this presidency and with these Republicans, there's an element of brace for impact. It isn't necessarily that you're just shrugging it off. It's that this is kind of an inevitably, going to happen. There's going to have to be cleanup and help that occurs afterwards. So I would argue that people, I think you're right that you need to reach out to people so they know we're aware of who's crashing the plane. There's an element of make sure your mask on is before somebody else's, and then when when this shit starts happening, you're gonna have to start coordinating in your states, in your churches, in your any charity group you work with that gets food, food banks and those kind of things around the holidays every year are gonna need more help than they've ever had. If you have the means and the wherewithal, that's what you're gonna have to do, because right now they don't want to change this. I happen to think that I don't take for granted that the plans that people put forward, like that the Patriot Act was actually an act of patriotism, for example. And in the same way that I don't think that that everybody suddenly being on board in some cases for the legalization of all drugs, like Rand Paul is, and that kind of stuff, like happened in Portland, is about freedom or non-violent victimless crimes, but more about, if we just let this go for a little while, we'll have a purge. These people will die. They will use until they are dead. If we stop trying to save them from themselves, they'll just end up killing themselves. And they did.
Yeah.
Portland had to turn back its whole like legalization of everything because A, they didn't manage it well or think they had to manage it well, and B, they thought it would just kind of clear itself up because it was based on a propaganda kind of idea as opposed to real science. And this is no different than the Stephen Millers of the world being mad at Bill Gates because he's trying to cure malaria in Africa. To him, or AIDS or Ebola or anything else, to them, let it roll. If these people can't come up with their own cures, just let them die. Stop getting between them and Darwinism. That's where their thinking is. And so it is the only way this is going to roll back in a lot of these districts is apparently it's news to a lot of these red district Republicans, or at least they pretend that it is, or red governors, red state governors or others, that they live on the tit of the blue states. And until this money actually dries up next week, and the ramifications are felt all throughout their state, and they know they're trying to hide it, or their own people, like that woman who called into C-SPAN, for example, until they see that, they don't give a rat fuck. If we're outraged about it and upset, even if it's on behalf of their constituents, to them, they think, well, this is just my way of getting rid of the poor in my state. This is how, like, we want this to kind of go through because these people will have to pack up and move home or move out of the state or move to a state like California or New York or something where there is a welfare state or a substructure or a safety net that exists to protect people. And this will be a great way to get everybody out of here.
Yeah. I would like to clarify for the people in the chat, I'm not taking the food out of the mouths of Black people with my big $300 SNAP benefits every month. And I don't get that money to feed my cats. I end up spending most of that big $300, the big $300 that I get for a full month of feeding. I end up spending most of it, not most of it, I mean half of it maybe, on canned chicken because cat food's very expensive. And if I exclusively fed them on cat food, I would not be able to spend money to pay the rent or the other things. No one has, first of all, it's none of your fucking business really how difficult someone else's life is financially unless they choose to share it with you. And just because I'm on a podcast, that doesn't mean I'm rolling in it at all. I've stopped asking for money because people don't like that. But what I am telling you is I have been on SNAP benefits for a little bit because of my unemployment situation. And if you think $300 is welfare queen numbers, then no. I feed myself first. Yes, my oxygen mask first.
SNAP is supplementary.
But also,
that's where the actual name comes from.
Not all
it's also let me clarify something too, because we can get to the reads about how people spend it or whatever, and it's a weird spiral, business. Right? Well, even still, it is. SNAP as a supplemental nutritional program exists because of the right to work insistence by Republicans that we not have just straight up welfare, and that some people, and this was a balancing act between, like, you're on total welfare and you get $1 over the amount that would put you on welfare, and your welfare goes away. And then all of a sudden, you don't have the capability to be $1 over anymore, and you fall into poverty. So there needed to be a transition point, like Cobra Insurance or something during a period of time. It's not as effective as in some ways as the nest that's created by welfare, but it's more mobile in that people aren't just cut off the second they try to get a real job or do something. They don't just lose everything all at once. So SNAP was there for people who temporarily, over a period of time, whether they have young kids or whether they're between jobs or their industry is shifting. Get used to that, by the way. That's a huge reason why SNAP itself is going to be a growing part of the welfare conversation, and why red states are full of it is because if your business is vanishing, if you're being put out of business by a new technology, SNAP is the first and primary way they're going to start delivering help to people, in that it is the food pantry when you need it aspect of a welfare system, and where they want to diminish any kind of like they talk about like generational welfare, or that's where they get the welfare queen idea. SNAP was there as this transitional point for whatever period of time that is. And I got news for people. SNAP is going to be increasingly the way that as workers lose their jobs to AI and automation and all that kind of stuff that I talk about on Friday AI with Rob, is going to be the delivery system for the transitional period where you're like, my whole fucking economic world is up in arms because I don't even know if I provide a service anymore that somebody needs. So I might need to retrain, retool, go back to school, that kind of stuff. And while I could work, at some job while I go back to school, it won't be enough to feed myself. And if you have a family or kids, SNAP will be the way that they will do that. So, and again, the first letter in SNAP stands for supplemental.
Supplemental.
It is
and
not the
I
entirety.
can't wait until I don't. Yeah, no, I look forward to when I never needed it. I don't want to need it. It was the first, and by the way, I haven't been on Snap like consistently for years. It's sporadic and supplemental. So anytime, like after I lost my job on the radio, I which is back in 2009, and everyone's like, well, you can file for unemployment, which I did, but they're like, after a certain amount of time, you can file for SNAP benefits. And at that time, I was like, well, I'm not that bad. It's not that bad. I'm not down there yet. But then when I was, there's a humility aspect to it. And there's something you get people try to shame you when you ask for, it's hard to ask for help when you've been a very independent person and when you don't want to. I don't want to ask for help. We are currently in a moment where, if your limited set of skills is talking in a microphone about politics or writing or whatever, like, I'm 5 feet tall and I'm 56. I'm not going to go out and, get a construction job because I'm physically not capable of doing that or whatever. Am I looking for work every day? Am I trying to do things and make things better? Absolutely. Am I up against something that's really feeling insurmountable in this moment? Yeah, but it doesn't stop me because I don't have the luxury of stopping. So if I don't want what I have.
Okay,
I want to
let me make the explanation as simple as I can for people out there, no matter what the issue is, as far as like SNAP benefits, especially for the people who might be losing them in the first week of November or whatever.
850,000 in Louisiana.
Right.
Johnson. 850,000 in Louisiana.
Right. All those people in the last 5 years post-COVID, because of a myriad of reasons, the cost of food has gone up 33%. The SNAP benefits that people get have not gone up 33%. And they have not gone up as a factor of that 33%, meaning that if it cost you, $300 to buy your grocery before, it doesn't cost you $333. It costs you somewhere closer to $450. Depending on, because everything's in varying levels, because cost of everything else went up with it correspondingly, because everybody else's food costs went up and along with them. And as you try to reshore factories and as you bring stuff home, the price of everything's going to go up. And again, this goes more towards like the Japanese currency versus US currency argument than it does it's about supply shock and it's about reshoring. That's what the cost is. If you're going to have humans working in factories and men picking food, and you're going to not let immigrants do it under the table for a lower wage, you're going to have to either pay for a machine that does it, that has to be built by somebody with skills, or you're going to have to pay a person who's expecting a living wage and can unionize and is a citizen to do that very same job. And that's going to drive the prices up continually. It's not going to change. That price rise is going to continue. And so in the same period of time, most people's job prospects, even if they kept their job, their wages haven't gone up 33% with this. And they're not expected to anytime soon. And again, God forbid if they've had a child during this period of time where their expenses have gone up beyond even the extra cost of food. Your food expenses will go up 33% even when things are static when you have a child, and if not more. And so it's an order of magnitude for a lot of people. So there are going to be a lot more people needing SNAP benefits in rotation and on the regular, whether that are working, that are busting their ass, because we are in a transitional period in human life on the planet where we have moved from every time these assholes talk about the globalists, we got to stop the globalists and the globalists. Anytime you hear them bring that up,
I mean the Jews.
Well, they also mean that you have to remind them that that's fine if you want to believe that, but understand prices are going to go up by at least a third. If you want to cut off the world, like there are reasons, a myriad of reasons to grow more of your food at home for national security purposes. And medications and there's absolutely a reason for that, but more for safety reasons than normal commerce. And there, in all of these circumstances, whatever you do, if you bring it all back, and you're like, we should make that here, prices will go up. Period. End of story. And unless you're willing to find a way to make people's wages rise with that and work with that, or understand that the government, while it's engaging in this market manipulation by insisting that a factory that was over there, that was paid workers by a company that was in the United States, whether you like it or not, was making that shit at a lower cost, when you're insisting they move it here or they go out of business, the cost of making whatever the fuck they make or pick or process is going to go up. And that's not the fault of the consumer. That is the government intervening in a market system. It is why, by the way, when Fox did a poll recently, there was, and Glenn Beck freaked out about it. I think I showed a clip of it a few weeks ago, or I may have just watched it. Oh, did I dream it? But he was saying that there was an alarming number of Republican voters, Trump voters, who believed that that had a positive view of socialism and believed that a socialist president will be necessary, and that they believe a Democrat would or should be in charge starting next time. And the one they were talking about, by the way, is Newsom.
Oh, yeah. No, I think that's a given. I think our ticket in 2028 is Newsom Buttigieg. I think that's our ticket. And
I think it's a great idea. Yeah.
Ticket. It's a great ticket. I don't love the optics of two white men any more than most people. But I think that what we do to get we finally get a path to a woman president, or at least a woman of color as president, is a gay man as vice president, is a soft way to introduce.
Okay.
I'm just saying what this country is ready for. Not you and me. What the
psychological ladder. Yeah, I get what you're saying, but the idea that
for a white gay man than a black woman, it's bad and it's not great, but it's true. And the more
that somehow they're rung on the same ladder is obviously problematic for a series of reasons. But
I know that. You and I know that. But what I am talking about is your average regular American who looks at stuff and doesn't pay as much attention as we do, and they are going to like the optics of a Gavin Newsom, Pete Buttigieg ticket much more than if Kamala Harris runs again in 2028. And that's just true. I don't like it.
Hold on.
But it's true.
Biden-Harris won very strongly. Okay. Harris running in a short window on her own without a big buildup of another term to like get people to understand what kind of leader she would be and that kind of stuff is the same fight that Vance is going to face, and he's going to fail as well. Literally, they're talking about Rubio being his training wheels and trying to scoop up the Latino community. Well, obviously. I mean, look at Dick Cheney and George W. Bush. That's what they're talking about. And they're not doing it. And that's no more absurd. Wait, that's no more absurd than saying if we're going to have a white straight guy at the front of the ticket, we're going to need a white gay guy to make up for it. It's the same argument.
I'm just saying. It's just true. It's just true. I don't like that it's true. And hopefully that those things will change going forward. But what I am saying is, if we're going to try to create another Democratic administration that reflects what America looks like, it will be more palatable for the larger electorate to see two white men than any people of color. But if it's two white, this is my point that I've been trying to make. If it has to be two white men, it can't just be two regular white men. There has to be something that reflects a minority community in one of those men. So
why?
Because
it would
the optics of two straight white men is not good.
No, that ship has sailed. I'm here to tell you.
I don't know that
because the inclusion of a gay man in the second position, as much as I'm for it, by the way, I would totally vote for that ticket in a heartbeat. not a problem.
It's that gay
But-
man, not any gay man. That
No.
one. That
But he
Pete
will be
Buttigieg one that
presented.
goes on Fox.
But he will
and
be
talks to
presented as representative of or reflective of the fact that, hey, he's this and he's gay, and gay is a part of his identity that's meaningful, which will. I got news for you. There are a bunch of minority communities that will feel left out because of that very reason, and feel diminished and driven away by that. In the same way that they felt when a woman was running in second place, and it drives a bunch of them to the other side. I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying you want to talk about a reality of something that once you talk about the optics of a team, as opposed to who do we have that actually cares about everybody, whether they're like them or not, is what matters.
That is any Democrat. That is true of all Democrats. It's choosing the right ones and making sure that we have faith in them, strong faith in them to
which
lead.
is more
And
important
I
than any
agree with
particular
you.
element of their ethnic minority status or
I
their
know.
ethnic majority status. It just
That would be great, but that's not the reality that we're going to face. Well, first, let's get through 2026.
No,
But
I'm
I
not
do
saying.
think, right?
No, I'm telling you that there's it's the same reason Harris had baggage, because there's a huge number of people in the country that won't vote for a woman president. And by the way, when people stack up and go, they had a Golda Meir and they had the fucking Iron Lady in England, and why do other countries have female leaders and we
Ireland.
haven't? Ireland, they have they have prime ministers. A prime
They just
minister
elected their third woman.
is not a president. They do not have the same power or ability as a president at all. It is from a power standpoint in terms of the state, it's like the most popular governor in the country as far as what level of power they have. And they can be dropped within weeks. They can call a new election and get them the fuck out. It's not the same thing.
Why can't we do that?
Because we don't have a monarchy. Because we have currently so far. Because we have a president, and a president, the idea is the presiding administrator of Congress's laws. That's how it's supposed to work. Now, do I? And here's the thing. Do I think that precludes a woman from being able to do the job? Obviously not. I voted for Harris. I voted for Clinton. I would vote for the next woman that Democrats run. But there is an intrinsic difference between the power structure of being the president of the United States and being the prime minister of fucking anywhere, as far as what they can do, what they can execute, and the decisions that they're made to make in regard to the state. Which is why a lot of these countries that would never let their country be presided over by a woman will have a female prime minister.
I see the point that you are making. Yes.
So there is a difference. So you can't.
Very,
It's the same thing. I know we're over time, but it's the same thing when people talk about, like, when Trump talks about how we're 44th in the world because of education. I'm like, well, cut out 7 of the fucking red states and we're like 5th. So no. And the states that do the best are the ones that spend the most per kid. So this idea, like, we spend all this money and you slather it out. Well, if you remove the fucking suck that is created by Louisiana and places like that, based on federal tax dollars, whereas the states that have the best student outcomes spend more state and local tax money on those fucking kids and get almost nothing from the federal government. In the case of California and New York, they actually give more of their money away to the federal government that is given to places like Louisiana, who fucking wipe their ass with it and spend it on other shit, and their kids and their teachers have to do, like, fund drives to get crayons.
Right.
So that this
that
one-to-one comparison shit. This is where, Mark Twain said lies, damn lies, and statistics. There's an element of, when people look at this, there is a huge difference between what happens, what a prime minister does and what a president does. And Trump thinks he's a monarch. That's the problem that we have to remedy for the president. He is the presiding administrator. He administers the laws and spending that Congress sets forth. That's the design of it. But we, Democrats, our side, the people who allegedly give a shit about public education, public health, public transport, making sure that there are commons and all these kind of things, that everybody is so like inflating Zoran Mamdani's asshole like a fucking balloon to like cheer and cherish. Those same people are the ones who flushed the fucking Supreme Court down the toilet for half a generation. Who didn't recognize that, by the way, that Joe Biden spent the entirety of his presidency trying to make a Supreme Court that looks more like America. It did exactly what you're fucking talking about. And what happened? The electorate on our side, I can't speak for Republicans and maggots. I'm going to assume they are always going to vote the way they're going to vote. Let's talk the max amount of Republican voters that exist. They are 41% of the electorate. That means anytime Trump is in office and he's got the House and the Senate and the SCOTUS, that's because we fucked up. We didn't recognize the seriousness of the threat, and we weren't willing to take the progress as it comes based in reality. That we let the fucking TYT, if we don't get everything, nobody gets anything, mandate to destroy fucking regular order Democrats in the process of turning blue districts bluer and patting themselves on the fucking back when we should have been turning red districts purple and purple districts blue.
Purple districts blue. That is the mantra.
Fucking time. And I get
that is the mantra. I know you do. And we do. And this is why you and I need to just take we need to do a field trip to Washington and we need to do a presentation for the Democrats on how to Democrat because they sometimes Democrat. I mean, my Senator Jeff Merkley held the Senate floor for slightly over 22 hours last week, speaking truth to power about how we are here and how we get out of here. Not enough people pay attention to what he said, but he said a lot of things that were very, very true. And so because we're so over, all I will ask of everybody who is still hanging in there, just make your phone calls or make those emails or do something today, this week, before the end of the week. Please do something. Every act of resistance matters, whether it is sharing this show or sharing our socials, which by now you know where we are, share our Substacks and all of that. But whatever state that you live in, if you live in a blue state, congratulations. But call your neighboring red states. Call the representatives in your neighboring red states and say, your constituents did not elect you to protect Trump and the Epstein files. Your constituents elected you to protect them. And your constituents are losing their SNAP benefits and their healthcare premiums are tripling because you have chosen loyalty to Trump instead of them. That is the messaging.
Sure, but I would go.
Tell them the truth.
I would shorten that. I would make it more concise. I would call if you have
use
a red.
Your own words.
If you have, if you have a Republican who is in your district or nearby district, especially in your state specifically, call them up and go, I think so and so, whoever it is, Mike Johnson. I think Mike Johnson must be in the Epstein files because there's no reason to protect other people who are in there. It must be him. I think he's in the Epstein files. Why won't he, come out and say he's not? Like, why won't they release the Epstein files? Because I think my congressperson is in there too. I tell my congressman I think he's in the Epstein files because he is. That's why he doesn't want him released. It isn't just to protect
I like
Trump.
That one.
Don't make it
I'm just going to tell everybody you're in the Epstein files, whether you are or you're not, because you're protecting them.
Right. What other reason could you possibly have? What? So obviously,
prove me wrong.
Yeah, prove me wrong. It'd be real fucking easy. Just release them.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing to believe that Trump is in them because we know he is. But it's another thing why the fuck would they help him? Well, part of the reason is because they're in there too. So how do I know my congressperson isn't in there if they don't want them released? I'm just going to assume they are. Or their donors are, or their mate is, or whatever. I just call them up and go, I'm starting to think, and my friends all think, and I would like an answer to this, that our congressperson is in the Epstein files. There's no other reason to cover them as hardly as he does. And that's it.
I mean,
and
don't expect a response, but do it anyway.
Just the person you will be talking to won't be able to respond anyways. But the way to get them to move on it is if they're on the line. If they just think, well, people are throwing this at Trump's way, but he's Teflon and he'll be gone soon anyways.
He's all yours, man.
Right.
The other thing is to nail this shutdown to them. This is your
Yes.
shutdown. This is your responsibility. This is your fault.
The Epstein
Your
shutdown.
Democratic
Shutdown.
colleague,
Yeah.
your Epstein
Read and talk at the
shutdown,
same time.
and your Epstein ballroom,
Right.
and your Epstein fucking everything is Epstein. And Epstein, which is why I still want someone to go in and take that scene from being John Malkovich and change it to everybody's got Trump's head going Epstein, because it's Epstein. And I like that. I like that approach. Because again, if you can't shame them, but you can embarrass them. And so go ahead. I mean, we know Howard Lutnick is in the Epstein files.
Yep.
He was Epstein's neighbor.
He bought his house
blocked
from
me on Twitter.
He bought his house
right.
from a foundation or like a holding company that Epstein started. And the guys on Peanut Butter Dickhead shaved 10 years out of it. Was like, he was living there and this guy Epstein moved in. I'm like, motherfucker, it's the other way around.
This is why the truth matters.
Why it matters.
Because we can't let their lies take hold. So please, please, please take some action this week to make sure that your neighbors don't die of starvation. I think that's pretty easy to do. We want to take care of our neighbors and and by the way, as we always say, and if there are any MAGA people in the chat, I want you to hear my words and know that they are true. I don't want you to die because of Donald Trump. I don't want you to die. I want you to live your life. I want you to feed your family and pay your bills and have your health care and not have your costs increase between $4,000 and $6,000 this year, which is what his tariffs are doing to you, MAGA, to you. And his ballroom is his top priority right now. And it's also interesting, and I'll leave you with this thought to ponder. First, the ballroom was $200 million. And then it was 250, and then it was 300, and now it's 350. And it's not because the costs are increasing. It's because it's 380 now. So what that means is not the cost of building it has increased, because nothing costs $380 million to build. That means more people
a lot
are
of
like,
things do.
I want to buy a favor. I want to buy a favor. Let me buy a favor.
Hold on. There's a lot of things that can be, especially if it's attached to the fucking White House. The idea that it would cost less than $1 billion is shocking, because you're going to want, like, if you're going to have world leaders in a fucking room with the president of the United States, and the idea that it doesn't have a bug out shelter built into it that's it can withstand a nuclear bomb is a little bit silly, or a fucking water slide that takes you straight into the bunker under the White House. It should be more expensive than that. But the idea that these assholes aren't paying for that part of it, they're paying for the top level part of it that's part of the blueprints. And when he shows the blueprints, you're like, motherfucker, you actually think we believe that that's what it looks like? Why would you show the blueprints of a White House adjacent building to the world anyways, you dumbass?
Fucking idiot. All it takes is one person to take a screenshot.
That's why
and then they're going to fuck up your plans. Don't
Right.
fuck.
Right.
All of this is fucked up, okay? All of it is fucked up. And that's their plan. That's their point. That's their raison d'etre, is to make sure that we're all like churned up about 8,000 things all at the same time. It is the chaos. And if we can ever, and somebody said today that Mike Johnson plans on keeping the government shut down to the end of the year. Nobody should accept that. Nobody should. Now, MAGA people should absolutely not accept that. Ever, ever, ever. That is your life being impacted, and impacted much worse than blue state people. Much worse. It will always be worse for you in the red states. Look at your COVID statistics. Look at unemployment statistics. Look at Medicare statistics. Look at SNAP statistics. Red states are going to suffer horrifically. Horrifically.
I'll tell you what.
And MAGA people will slowly find out. And then when they find out, it's going to be a little too late. And I don't want that for anyone. And look what's the measles and the mumps and the bird flu and the COVID. And I got my COVID and flu shot already. I really hope everyone else does. But I also hope everybody who is still listening takes action to tell somebody in a red state, hey, fucko, you're killing the people who elected you. That's the opposite of what your job description is. That's where I mean, come on now. Where are the Republicans worried about any of this?
In the
look
last...
at the states.
Yeah,
look
in
at
the
last...
States. Which ones these are, right, exactly. Although Washington State has 1.9 million this has a lot to do with your proximity to Canada, which is where the migrant birds are now moving south. And so they are flying over, and that's where you get this from. This is how this happens.
There's also proximity to Idaho, where there's a lot of farming and a lot of livestock. stuff in
Right.
Idaho, and also Eastern Oregon is more rural and has a lot of farmland. But look, red, 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 red. As you go down, South Dakota, Utah, Iowa, Indiana, and also well, Michigan is blue, but again, north Canadian border. So
Yep.
Canadian border, blue states, and then everything else is a red state.
6.6 million cases.
Look at that.
These
Look
are
at that.
these are
Thanks,
culled
RFK, you fucking asshole.
Right. These are culled birds that and this is, I think, the standout quote. It's happening pretty fast and doesn't seem to be slowing down, and I'm really unclear about what the U.S. approach is going to be, said Angela Rasmussen, a virologist at the Vaccine Infectious Disease Organizations at the University of Saskatchewan in Canada.
Be?
Nothing. Because the government is shut down.
Let them all die.
What's going to happen?
Let them all die.
Right.
We don't care.
Not only did they
Look
fired a bunch of people at the top of these things and had to rehire them, but they will. But the idea that they have like an all hands on deck approach to this, like you're going to need, is just absurd. And this is what's going to, more than anything else, break the kind of resolve of Republicans to reopen and possibly, put the ACA subsidies back in, is because there's going to be life goes on, and a bunch of their own constituents need those subsidies more so than blue states.
They do. Yes, they do. And they need to be reminded of it, and they need to be reminded of it where other people can see them being reminded of it, because one person holding someone accountable is meh. Thousands of people holding one person accountable is a something.
Oh, and so maggots,
right?
Maggots who are like, we want to pass 12 different bills, and we want to make sure that you can't just have these things, these rolling funding things happen, right? That was that was one of their big pushes last time. It's all Chip Roy, right? He's on this committee still, drafting this shit up. At USDA, the cupboard is pretty bare when it comes to human resources. Why? He added that funding in the Republican budget law is held up as long as a farm bill isn't passed. Well, guess what? Guess what doesn't get passed while there's a government shutdown? Guess what doesn't get passed as long as the Congress is out of session?
Everything.
Yeah. The CDC team, which they fired, was rehired, can sequence these things, but delivering this stuff, making sure that all the farmers that need it have it, and that they're on top of this spread, that's what falls apart. That's why we have never been, it's you want a little bit of doom scrolling from me. We have never been more vulnerable to a bioweapon attack in our history.
100%. And this is also what I was talking about when they were trying to confirm RFK. I'm like, that guy gets in, we are vulnerable to bioweapons attacks, period. Because when you eradicate vaccines deliberately to make a population more vulnerable, you're a fucking murderer and you belong in prison, RFK Jr. And I mean, we could do a whole other hour just on him and everything that he has done to destroy Americans' health. And that MAGA is like, please make me less safe. Please make me less healthy. Please make me hungrier. Like, I don't get it. There is a point where you stop supporting things that are against your best interests. And I believe what you were saying earlier, a lot of the MAGA people, even the most devout ones, are literally finding out what they voted for. And we also said this last time. I think I said this to you last time, in that, like, what does it take? And what it takes is for them to turn their backs is when Trump's lies stop comforting them and start hurting them. And that is now. I wish it was a little bit earlier in this month, because the shutdown has been going on for a month or a little bit longer than a month, which is unacceptable. And the only other shutdown that was longer than the one that we're having now is the one that Trump did in his first administration.
Right.
And also his approval ratings are lower now than ever. So congratulations. Woohoo. He's such a loser that he can even lose to himself. Congratulations. That's what you did.
Tara Dublin, who doesn't even rock, go to TaraDublinRocks.com, get a copy of her book.
Thank you, everybody.
And
buy my book and do the things and make the calls and save America.
Before you leave, I feel like since I doom scrolled everyone, I feel like I owe you guys a piece of good news that's particularly annoying to maggots. So I think I can do both at the same time.
I like that.
I can give good news for everybody, including maggots, but that will upset maggots. This is good. Okay. Turns out,
bring it in,
that the SARS vaccine, the mRNA vaccines, when taken during cancer treatment, help your body fight cancer.
Ooh.
The way it primes your immune system makes it also attack the cancer cells better than without it. And so people who got their SARS-CoV-2, which is COVID-19 mRNA vaccines for their updates, even if they get the old one during their time under doing chemotherapy or fighting cancer of any sort, even if they haven't began treatment so far, it shrinks tumors and it helps your body fight the cancer naturally. It primes your immune system to be on its best behavior, as it were.
I like that. That's good news. Thank you for sharing good news. And especially for someone like myself, I'm 100% Ashkenazi Jewish, and we have the highest incident of cancer on the planet. And I'm very proactive with my cancer screenings. I get my annual mammogram. I had a colonoscopy earlier this year, and I don't have to go back for 5 years. So that's great. But I'm also part of the Healthy Oregon Project, which I'm waiting for my results. It's sponsored by the Knight Cancer Institute, and you spit in a tube and you send it off, and then they let you know what cancers you might be susceptible to in the future, because you have indicators in your in your DNA. So news like that is really helpful for people, because I don't know. I don't know. Maybe sometimes the U.S. government doesn't want you to die. Hey,
what a weird.
That's a good thing,
especially if you're an American. One would think. Even then, like,
it's kind of hard to. We're gonna have to kind of like reframe. Once we get Democrats back in power, we're gonna be like, wait a minute. I remember what it was like to live under a president who wasn't actively trying to kill us. I like this so much better.
Right.
That's great.
That's right.
Yay. Okay, everybody. I'll see you next Monday. Try not to die this week and do something good. Northern's not on fire. We're not on fire.
Yes, you are. Alive. All right. Bye.
Goodbye, Portland. You make no sense. Renaissance mayors on a latte fence.
All right. Goodbye, Portland. Oh, thank you, Kale Link. Appreciate that. Thanks for sticking with me through the extra half hour, kids. If I get wound up by the morning show, especially talking about the stuff that I regularly talk about, I'm eventually going to land on the idea that I am like, we have a responsibility for the mess we are in, and therefore we can make it better by responding. And if anybody's like, they're not even going to have elections, we'll make them have elections. Simmer down. We'll cross that bridge. I will, don't pop balloons that haven't already been popped. How about we try and reinflate the ones we know exist? I'm not going to panic about shit that hasn't happened yet when we've got, emergency work to do now about actual stuff. Stuff you can do. Yes. So take care of yourselves and take care of somebody else. I insist. Do I have the whole song, or did I didn't. I just cut the whole thing. That's right. I'm going to go out on my on the original theme song, because I just feel like some days you need it. All right. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you guys this afternoon at 3 o'clock Pacific time. You're going to be all right, people. You're going to be all right.